Welcome to Rising Tide Startups, where we chat with startup founders and solopreneurs just like you from all over the globe. During our chat today, picture yourself starting your own startup journey. If our guests can do it, you can too. This is Rising Tide Startups Podcast, and my name is Kevin Pro. It's my honor to host this podcast, and I have a friend joining me today, Evan Kubicek. Evan, thanks for joining us on Rising Tide.
Thanks for having me. Good job with the pronunciation. It's because we've known each other for so long. I think
last time you were on, I messed that up. I think it was the baseball player Tony Kubicek that I was hearkening back to my childhood. But man, if you and I met at a networking event, how would you introduce yourself to me?
I wear a lot of different hats, so I end up kind of adapting what I share. I also realize people just generally don't care. So it's like it depends on honestly how much energy that I have. So what I like to do, what I first find is I call myself Indiana Jones of social entrepreneurship. So that pivot from history and archaeology, swap that out to business and entrepreneurship. So being able to be in the classroom, especially one of the films, I think it's The Last Crusade, those students want to talk to him about a test and he climbs out the window and just leaves the country. I feel that a lot, about halfway through the semester. I'm like, that sounds good. Thankfully, this semester, I do get to leave the country again for a short trip. So my background has been in entrepreneurship, kind of missions, humanitarian work, working with entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, but I've also had a lot of role in education, in higher ed. I'm not qualified to teach anything below higher ed. I don't know if I'd survive anything below higher ed, just with what they have to put up with. So thankfully, it's good to be in college atmosphere, teaching entrepreneurship and marketing classes, working with social entrepreneurs in the different areas. And actually, so the newest thing, there's every time we pop on, I'm always doing something with varying degrees of success. So the latest, actually, my wife and I are working on a project, and I finally, which we're going to talk about today with AI, has been fantastic for me because I'm lazy, actually putting together content around a book and actually working with some of my grad assistants on helping me kind of put the framework together for that as well. So yeah, that's my intro. It's awful.
And you live in like a beehive home in the middle of a town named after another state that's not in the state you're living in, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we live in a geodesic dome that I built myself and did that
Twice.
horrifically wrong. Yeah, horrifically wrong, and had to redo it because of mold. Because apparently ventilation is important, right? So it did not have any ventilation really at all. So fix that. But yeah, live in a little farm town in Illinois called Kansas, about 700 people. Get to be on the fire department. Actually, my son and I just completed kind of the first level of EMT certification, which is now called an EMR. So now both my 16-year-old and I, in addition to doing firefighting volunteer-wise, we're also jumping on ambulance calls as well. So just always spicing things up in some direction or another.
Well, next time I have you on, you're probably going to say, "Well, I've gone completely. I'm living off grid, and I'm living
Yeah.
off the land, and I've got chickens that sleep in the bed
No,
with me."
I like hot water. After living overseas, taking like bucket showers for a year, I do enjoy my on-demand hot water heater where I just take excessively long showers. So that is not
I get it. I get it. Well,
environmentally friendly whatsoever.
one thing that I really one reason I brought you on was just kind of you exist in a unique space to the
Yeah.
majority of our guests we have on the podcast, and I know that there at Eastern Illinois you have been involved in a number of like entrepreneurial I guess projects, classes, but I really want to talk about just kind of that college age sector that we're that what's the intersection of AI? How is AI having an impact on, these young entrepreneurs that are kind of crafting new ideas, new thoughts, and how they are responding to kind of this AI boom. So, without directing you too much, I just want to kind of open the mic here and just kind of let you riff a little bit just in that space.
Sure. Well, I find myself actually, showing them a lot more than, I have had a few students that have shown me something tool wise when it comes to AI. Typically, though, I'm the one that's introducing them to the tools. And we don't have a formalized policy at our university. There is all the, obviously the concerns around plagiarism and just
Sure.
not creating their own work. From the business side, I'm like, we have to, these students need to know how to use these tools. It's not a question of will they need to know what they look like, just for the competitive landscape of things. So it's interesting because I think with this current age generation that I've got, and thankfully I have college age children, so I get to see into this a lot more than I think I would if I didn't have college age kids. They really do. They are fixated, I think, on what is real. I think they've grown up with so much fake their entire life that they really just want to know what is real. So some of them, they view AI content as just not something that they're particularly interested in. It's more humorous. It's more like joke stuff, like the cats of like
a meme.
oh yeah, all like it's great to create memes, but it's not anything really one. And then the students that are more on the creative artistic side like really don't like it because this is, I want to get into this career, but people will be satisfied with AI content. So if I want to go into graphic design, if I want to go into video production, I want to go into these trades, they my opportunities are just going to get less and less because we're just going to be content with AI generated content, which is a reality, So some of them love it, some of them don't. By and large, they don't really use it a lot. I think when it comes down to if they don't have a strong ethical framework, will they use it to cheat? Absolutely. But it's not something that they're not rushing to as much as I thought they would be.
Does that come as a surprise to you that there's almost this reticence on their part that says, um, and I think you mentioned it, just like the authenticity of the content that's generated and just the world they lived in. But I'm kind of surprised, as they are generally the early adopters, of
Correct. Yeah,
any tech
absolutely.
advances here. So
Anything new.
what's unique about this? Do you think that is causing them to kind of take a step back and go, yeah, I'm really not interested.
I think it is. It is that real authenticity piece where there's parts of it that they're okay with it, but by and large, like they know this is just more not real. This is more
Mhm.
fake. This is more, and they don't know what to trust, right? So it's like it's even more reason for them to distrust, which they're contributing to as well. But they honestly, so much of the stuff that they're laughing about, I watch what their reels are that they're watching. I'm like, I don't get it. And that's the whole point is that, I'm 20 years older, plus to them. So you're not supposed to get it. There's a generational gap, but they doing things that are just awkward. They putting people in awkward situations is what's funny
Yep.
for them. So, it's another one of the things where it's not real. It's not authentic. It is, and the content now is generally kind of awkward. But when it's done really well, they can appreciate when something's done well. But if it's not done at a really high level, they really don't waste any time on it.
When you're teaching classes and especially in the entrepreneurial space, do you find that there's a parallel between this whole idea of hacking your education, kind of tangentially hacking a career as well? Do you see them say, "Hey, I'm gonna do a little of this, a little of this, a little of this," instead of just taking the kind of the traditional career path of let me find my 9 to 5 job and go that route?
They are all learning something outside of what they have to learn for their degree. So they are accessing. They do listen to podcasts a
Hmm.
lot. So a lot of kids are listening to podcasts. They're watching reels and videos and YouTube channels that they're following. So they all have interest in things that they do outside of what they're required to do with it's a full-time or a part-time job and being a student. They're definitely learners, and they're not. They don't take things at face value. They're like, let me like dive deeper into something, and some of them, it's interesting because even in part of it, I think it's just the population of students we have. At a mid-tier state institution, in the middle of corn. It's not, we're not necessarily attracting
Silicon Valley
students.
of
Yeah, we're not
Central
attracting students
Illinois.
that are particularly aggressive and have really high aspirations for things. Just kind of like, this is what I got to do. This is the next step. Kind of move through.
Hmm.
Um, so I see a smaller number of those students that really do go after something and ask questions in our. That being said, this last semester, I um, I just gave up on teaching, or at least the perception of teaching, of going to cover a chapter, going to do the stuff, and we just completely made it project based. And I was teaching a sales class. So the sales class, I got the students excited about pitching a live wild panther to, I mean, a domesticated that's been in captivity, to pitching a wild animal as a live mascot to live on campus to our university president. They ate it up. They were bringing content from other classes. Like, I just did this in my research class, I did this in my other class, and they were putting all this extra energy and effort into class because it was something audacious and something exciting, something different, and something that I knew, like, there's no way we're going to get approval for this. Like, the the risks of bringing, a live animal, a wild cat, to live in an enclosure, a public university, and the PR optics of it are
Yeah,
terrible.
exactly.
There's so many things that can go wrong, but they really, really, they lit up and they put a lot of extra energy and effort into it, which is really fun to see. So that's definitely something that I do see with a lot of college students now, is that they are they are just waiting for someone to say, "Hey, let's go, let's do something big," and they will generally step up. But by and large, I think most people's expectations are, "Oh, they don't want to do anything, so
Hmm.
I won't ask anything of them."
Yeah. I can see the SPCA having a
Oh
ball
yeah,
the PR around that. But you look at places like Baylor University that have like
correct.
two or three live bears in enclosure.
Colorado, they run a bison across the football field. They got like
That's
four
right.
kids holding down a bison. Um, you got a bulldog, and you got gators,
LSU has a Bengal tiger.
got a
Yeah,
tiger,
it's
exactly.
crazy. It is crazy. As you look at classes, and you just see, externally how rapidly AI is affecting just our society as a whole,
Yeah.
and actually the world. So how, I mean, what approach are you taking other than just trying to introduce them to things? What other approaches are you taking to kind of
I'm
get them
actively
on
having
board?
them, yeah, I'm having them use it. I was showing them just the other day, like, for market research, the ability to track down studies, the ability to visualize data, to utilize,
Hmm.
not all the AI tools are as good at certain functions. Some of them do a much better job of dropping in data files and asking it to visualize that data for you to make decisions. So telling them, you're going to have to do market research, you're going to have to track down what customers need and want, how do they think and feel about this stuff, and this is your best mentor. This is they have access to domain knowledge, specific knowledge, and all these different areas that you don't know what to ask it, and just let it. Now, tell me what you're doing. Don't take credit for work that's not yours, but you absolutely need to be using these tools. The one I've, I've shown students, I showed students, like, how to use Google's notebook platform to be able to drop in multiple research items and then generate a podcast so they can listen to it. And I'm actually utilizing that for one of my other classes so that they can have an additional way to consume the content and learn it. Because this is what I've noticed for the past few years, is that when I give them written instructions, they will not read it, and then they just start emailing me asking me questions. If I
Questions you've
send
already
them,
heard.
correct, if I send them a screencast where I show them on the
Yeah.
screen where the file is and then give them a quick overview, I spend 2 minutes doing a screencast, no questions asked. All the assignments get turned in, and they do what they need to do for that assignment. Great, right? So I give them something, they do the work, I look at it, they've learned it. Awesome. We can move on to the next thing. So they're very much more audio visual, story
Hmm.
perceptive rather than reading, in terms of how they prefer to learn, which is totally fine. There's learning styles. Some people actually do like to read still, but by and large, I would say the majority of students, if they have the choice of listening to something or watching a video, they're going to pick that.
And I mean
and
that's obviously
comprehend it.
how they're consuming content just in general. I mean,
Exactly.
that's pretty, part and parcel to how you're living life is, and
Hmm.
you're trying to adjust to kind of meet that expectation, that they have. But I would be interested if you went back, get in the time machine, go back, you're 18 years old right now. Do you ever like try to like personalize this approach as you're teaching students to say, okay, if I was an 18-year-old student, this is what I would do, and just kind of walk them through that journey, to give them like real life examples of ways that you would approach this moving forward.
Oh yeah. I mean, my general approach to teaching is I want to be the professor I wish that I had. And for me personally, the most engaging professor I had was active in business. He was not a PhD. He was someone that was running a business. So I I just had a guest speaker yesterday, someone that started their own company, actually is involved in like public watchdog group stuff in addition to running a company and talking to them about how he sells, like his sales strategy. How does he actually structure the conversation? How does he get the customer to nod along and to agree with them,
Yep.
right? Because I don't remember I don't remember a single lecture I ever heard, right, in my entire college career, undergrad and master's. I remember the guest speakers that I had. So I view it from this perspective of my job is for them to learn. So whatever tool or approach or methodology will help them learn, that's what I'm going to do. So if I don't talk as much, which I try to, but there's still some classes I end up talking a lot, I don't care. Like I don't have to talk at all. As long as you're learning, that's the goal.
Mhm.
Um, I've gotten rid of attendance policies. And I'm not like life is gonna force them to learn that lesson. Like I can artificially create penalties for them for not being in my class, but fundamentally, like that's my measure. Like if I'm not adding enough value in this classroom that you want to come,
Hmm.
either you're a moron or I'm not doing a good job. Like those are
Either
the
you're a
two.
moron or I'm a moron. That's
Yeah,
right.
one of the two, right? And if I'm getting a good result from these other students, and I'm like, no, this student just doesn't want to learn, then I'm not going to force someone that doesn't want to learn to be there. It's not high school. It's not junior high. It's like, you're paying for this. Show up, don't show up. If you can learn it, because I would say from the entrepreneurial side, I think that's one of the traits that I've noticed of every successful founder, their ability to learn quickly. If you can't learn, apply things quickly, I do not think you will be successful as an entrepreneur. You've got to be able to size up a situation, realize you don't know it, bury yourself in whatever learning tool it is, podcast, books, videos, whatever. Learn what you need to learn, get something moving, and then find someone smarter than you to give it over to them. And then you move and you just rinse and repeat that until all of a
Right.
sudden, you're a publicly traded company. I mean, that's basically how that progression works. They're just quick learners, hand it over. They don't make it a part of their identity. Success and failure is kind of like whatever, just always constantly moving on, which also leads to burnout because they don't know how to stop ever.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they're on all 24/7. I
Yeah,
one of the I think, strengths of university is kind of this bidirectional marketplace where you're dealing with the students themselves, but you're also dealing with, how do you connect them to employers post grad,
yeah.
What are you seeing from the employer side that says we expect graduates to have these types of skills that may AI may have some interface with? What are some of the AI specific skills that they're asking for?
I don't know. A lot of them are like, "Yep, that one's alive. Send them over." Just showing up. Being unfortunately, the bar to entry now is very, very low because there is just a shortage of people that are willing to just do the work.
Hmm.
And do the work consistently and show up and work hard and be willing to kind of figure things out. Now on the side where there is competition for roles, it's really interesting because it's changing weekly in terms of
Right.
like what you're able to generate as an output. And that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm hearing as I read some of the stuff from Sam Altman at the beginning of the year and other people building, memory and agents and the ability to have If work is a place where I interact with another human being through Teams or through some ERP system, and I create a file and I send them a file, and they do something to the file, and then we jump on a Zoom call and have a conversation, and then we're just sharing files back and forth. AI can absolutely do all of that work, and it's already starting to do that work, and we're starting to integrate it so you can have, once again, domain specific people in that interface. Now, it can compare it to benchmarks. I mean, like, so one of the assignments that I do in a business to business course that I teach is pretty much have them select a company that does business to business sales and business marketing strategy, and say, take this business, read through these chapters, look at this content, look at the best practices that are being recommended for how a business to business company should function, and then just compare and contrast. What are they doing well? What are they not doing well? And write recommendations for it. Well, that's a 30-second prompt at this point. You can say, compare this entire operation to the textbook or to every other business in the industry, so that benchmarking side, but making judgment calls about what is good. Yeah. What is good, and how will people respond to something? Because I think the ability to creating something that looks professional now, check, like done. Like, anyone can create something that looks professional without any knowledge of the topic, just by asking the right question now.
It is interesting. I mean, it's one thing to compile data. It's another thing to be able to analyze it and use it effectively. What's the output of that? And in our post-COVID world, I mean, I use that term pretty loosely because it still has, it still certainly has its remnants that are just kind of existing. But what do you see as far as the demands of the students, like when they're looking for that role postgraduate time? Are they demanding that, hey, that has to be some kind of a hybrid environment? We want to have remote work. We want to have flexibility. We're looking for a 4-day work week. We're looking for, I want to be able to work anywhere in the world, kind of asynchronously. What are some of like, if you had to list, here's 2 or 3 of the highest demands from the employee standpoint. What do you think those are?
Well, I'd say flexibility, yes. In terms of what that flexibility looks like in practice, I think it does come down to some students that know, like, I can't focus when I'm at home. Like, I need to be somewhere else in order to actually get work done. I think they're self-aware enough to know when they can be productive and can't be. I think that shift away from home ownership, possessions, like there's so many of them that don't believe that they will ever own a home at this point, because they feel like that's going to be just, so if that's
kind of a bridge too far. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about that reality, like, you will never own a home. Well, all of a sudden, do your priorities shift in life? Absolutely. Like, well, if I'm never going to own a home, then why don't I just live anywhere that I want to for as long or as little as I want to? And if that's the case, then why wouldn't I want to find work to? So they're absolutely, now flip that with, those that say, like, no, I want stability. I want chicken. I want dirt. So in terms of, like, a benefits package, saying, hey, we will help you have a home and a picket fence. And if you want chickens, we'll buy chicken. You're like, if you really want to attract people, you've got to think about the future employee, from just like you would think about your customer. Like, what is meaningful to them? I tell you what drives me crazy is job descriptions.
Yeah.
Are ridiculous.
Yep.
Absolutely ridiculous.
In 1994 called and want their job description back.
Well, like, hey, every time you post the job again, that doesn't mean you need to add another paragraph to make it look like you've done your work. Like, the description's just getting longer and longer and longer. You got to be a self-starter. You've got to all these things. You got to pretty much have the skills of a founder and an entrepreneur
for entry-level positions. That's right.
For an entry-level position, and it's not even counting the aspect of experience. So if they try to tell students, like, you need to get experience and you need to learn how to translate the experiences that you have so they make sense to your future employer as much as possible. And that's the challenge, is like really understand where these people are coming from and the world that they've grown up in
Hmm.
and what they think the future is going to look like. Because if they fundamentally believe that the world is about to end because of a climate disaster, right, then they have a totally different mind frame than people that are like, no, I want to drive a diesel truck. I mean, like, you got so many different subcultures from urban to rural to East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, and across, let alone globally, with things. You really have such a different demographic of people that you're working with. That's, what do they want? Like, what? And the concept of loyalty is completely gone. And if they want to have salary growth, they know they've got to leave you in 3 years.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Like, if
You
I
have to move
want
to
to
a
make,
different, yeah,
I've got to move
location.
to I can't get promoted internally to have the salary trajectory that I could have if I just went somewhere else. So, I mean, having those honest conversations like, hey, we realize, but do you want to have three-year turnover all the time?
Hmm.
Some people, you want to have 1 year turnover.
Hmm.
I like, it's healthy to keep people, lose people, like that's normal, but also just realizing where they're at and just letting people be honest with what they're expecting and what commitments can you make. Like, are they your family? No, they are not your family. Like,
Hmm.
it's an employee relationship, but they also want to be human. Well, they do need to be able to be honest and learn.
I could continue just to kind of grill you with these questions and kind of around this space, but I do want to honor your time today, and I know you got things to do and chickens to get to, obviously, if you
I don't
want
know.
dirt and
I,
chickens,
I
but
I'm not into the chicken space whatsoever. My dad passed away. He left us some chickens. Like, these are the first things to go. And it's like 12 degrees outside, and you got to go clean their poop. And
exactly, chicken ranch
now,
is
I
not in
mean,
your
yeah, I
future.
mean, it's not in my future. This would be the time to own chickens, to get those eggs for sure.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I think certainly the market on eggs is pretty steep right now. But tell me, if you would just speak to our audience, the younger members, the younger
Sure.
demographic of our audience right now. And so, what are some things that you would coach them on? Like, these are the things that you really need to know. These are the soft skills you need to have in your arsenal to really be marketable, kind of in the
Okay, sure.
next phase of this job market we're looking at.
Well, I would say, I'll relate it. So one thing that I'm working on is in that kind of that sales area. And if you're getting hired, it's a sales pitch. You're the product, right? So you've got to be able to make. There's two concepts. One concept that I always talk about with students is the idea of, like, you have a salary in mind that you would like to earn to be able to have the lifestyle that you want. That is a reflection of value that you're adding, right? So understand that concept. Like, you want $100,000 salary, then how are you going to add $1 million in revenue or
Mm,
$1 million in cost savings? If you can prove that, don't stress about it. You're worth that money. Great.
yep.
If you can't, then find ways you can add that value. And there's lots of ways to be able to do that. So just that relationship between value added and what you
Hmm.
want to earn, or value added and I don't need to earn as much, but I want to have flexibility. So make it worth their time to say you will have a different structure around what your work schedule is going to look like to be able to do the other things. That's totally fine. From the sales perspective, what I've seen, looking at a lot of research, a lot of sales staff, is that there's really, and it's nice because it's an acronym of pitch. So what are the 5 things you really need to be able to do? Prepare. Most people think they're prepared, they're not prepared. So whatever preparation you've done, do a little bit more preparation. That's really important. I saw a study that even in the business to business sales environment, 80% of decision makers felt like the salesperson talking to them was unprepared. That's
Mm,
crazy, right? If you got 80% of the professional sellers out there thinking that they're fully prepared for this conversation, and 80% of those buyers saying, like, no, they weren't prepared, they didn't know the product, they couldn't answer the questions that we had, that's that's problematic. You need to be intelligent, but where things are at now, what's even more important is emotional intelligence. So being able to read the room, read your audience, read those clues. If they're done with the conversation, don't push it.
yep.
Like, come back. Timing. So preparation, emotional intelligence, timing. knowing when to ask, knowing when to wait, looking at the seasonality of things, what's going on trend wise. If you're looking at the U.S. government, anything related to the U.S. right now, maybe just wait. Maybe just wait and kind of see where things are going to land.
Lands,
In terms
yeah.
of, yeah. Do you want to take a trip to Eastern Europe? Maybe wait on that too. Kind of see. So the timing aspect of things is, and that's fine. See clarity. People think they've communicated. Well, I asked them, like, well, what did you actually say? So make sure it's very, very clear what you're asking for without it being cute. There's got so much going on. Everyone's used to scrolling, and I've got 1 second to look at that message and be like, yep, that's for me. So if I don't get it by the time my finger goes from the top of the phone to the bottom of the phone, crystal clear. Like, do not miss this level of clarity. And then the last thing is the aspect of it's got to be a higher order, a higher purpose of importance. Like if it's just about you're gonna fill a seat in the company, okay, that's great. But compared to every other person that we're going to hire or any other product we're going to bring into this, why will this matter? When it's all said and done, why will it matter that we've chosen you or we've chosen this thing? And linking that to some at a much higher level of importance, like it matters because it relates back to where we're sourcing it. It matters because you want to be able to go home every night. There was actually some ladies that were working on a book around impact, and they ended up starting the whole book with this idea of like, you may end up with a beautiful home, massive dining room table, all the luxuries, but will anyone be sitting at the table with you when you reach that point? So yeah, you've made it, but at what cost to all those relationships ideas? So when you can relate that, hey, you will retire not only wealthy, but happy with your family around you, and they'll be proud of you because that's the type of people that I work with. And that's what I expect of myself and others. That's why I want to work for you. When you can make that higher order appeal as to why that's there, you got to prepare because you got to be able to adapt what's coming to you, right? You got to be able to read them, emotional intelligence. If it doesn't happen in the first call, it's okay. It might happen a month or two later, like reading the timing of it and being not leaving anything unsaid. So being very clear how you do it, but making sure that it's important and it's worthwhile. If you can do those things, pretty strong likelihood you're going to be able to get the position that you're asking for. Because most people, they don't do that. They're not willing to do that work.
I love that clarity around the acronym at pitch. How you kind of frame that. Just last question I want to ask you is kind of certainly related to the AI space, but have you seen any specific area, specific vertical, specific just directional targets in the AI space that you think, hey, this one kind of stands alone. If you're prepping, if you're kind of looking toward being a value add in the new economy, is there anything related to AI that just really stands out to you?
I would say if there's any particular type of job or work now that 90% of it is completely done online, that you can figure out a way to probably run that company by yourself. I think this is what I'm seeing, and this is what I was telling my students, is that I think what AI as a tool allows humanity to do is what only the wealthy and the famous could have done before. Because now I can access a whole team of a system that makes me look great. That psychs me up before I go talk. You're like, you want to feel good about yourself? Talk to a little AI chatbot. Say, I'm feeling scared about something. Like, oh, and like all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'm amazing. Or feed your own ideas. This is dangerous, right? Because some of the book content I fed into Google Notebook, and I'm listening to the podcasters talk about my ideas. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It is. I'm a genius, right? So that ability to take work that is completely virtual, completely online, it's just transferring information back and forth. I think people, the whole SaaS space, I think is in a lot of trouble because that ability just to move things from one category to another category, shift information back and forth. Not only can it be done, but it's going to be optimized at a level that it's never been optimized before because it's just been a collection of human judgment. Human judgment is a game of telephone, enterprise level. So it's just inside of a system. Now all of a sudden you remove to some degree, for better for the training of it, and the operator error now is either going to be zeroed or maximized.
Exponential, yeah.
Yeah, exponentially, because you've told it what you want the outcomes to be or what's important, or you followed its direction of what it tells you is important. And what it tells you is important may not be what's actually important, but it looked good. It looked professional. It looked very sharp.
I love that. It's an overused term, but I mean, what you were describing is almost like, the democratization of entrepreneurship. It's like
Yeah,
I can appear to be like everything's white labeled. I can appear to be much larger, much more efficient, much more effective, much more, broad in scope and delivery than I could, even
social
5
media
years
posts.
ago.
Yeah, come up with 6 months social media campaign content for yourself. You yourself sitting down, watching channels. Oh, that's a good one. You're watching videos, or you can just be like, create a 6 month catalog for me of things that I should write about. The script is done.
Yep.
The direction's done. The research is done. Like you can do so much more now. Once again, it's good and bad. I think it's going to lead people to believe that they're more competent than they are. And to tackle some or to show up in spaces that they're not prepared for. I mean, I think you're going to get a lot of people. I mean, it is the 90s. It's the 90s.com bubble for sure. This is another really interesting thing for entrepreneurs to really be aware of. I do believe that Google ads and SEO is probably going to be gone here in the next year and a half at the most.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to fully go away, but in terms of where will people start searching, they're already starting to search inside ChatGPT, and it's already getting people. I don't need to look through the list of 10 things. It just told me what the best thing is, and I tried it one time and it was great. Like that's all people will need to know is if they have a good first experience, they're just going to keep going back to it. It's just going to get better and better and better. So generative engine optimization, making sure that if people are searching for something that you do, that ChatGPT tells them about you.
Yep. Yeah. I love the way you kind of tied a nice little bow around it there at the end. And now here's a quick word from one of our new sponsors on Rising Tide Startups. Every episode of Rising Tide Startups is sponsored by Podbrand Media. So you started your own company or branded podcast, and now it's fading. Let Podbrand give it new life. Check out podbrandmedia.com to learn more. Just wrapped up this conversation is just fascinating to me because it is, as old as I am, I still love to learn, and just the whole space around this is just incredible. And it's just changing so rapidly. I mean, it's making Moore's law look like it's stuck in quicksand or whatever, the idea of, just the advanced technological advances. But it is amazing. But man, if there's anything that we haven't touched on today that you'd just like to wrap up, just a nice closing thought for our listeners here today.
All right. So curveball, but I think another aspect of one of those different hats that I wear in terms of the aspect of like defining success. It's that aspect of what truly does matter, what should we spend time on. Part of the recent, when this recording is being recorded, we have all the controversy around Doge in the government and wiping off staff. One of the particular ones, honestly, personally, I was very thrilled to see is the question of USAID funding and all these things. So just that thought around what responsibility do we have as business owners and as entrepreneurs and as leaders to be involved in social issues, social dynamic spaces. Like it's very important. So having a measure of success that allows you to have the time to create relationships and to maintain those relationships well. And you can't maintain deep relationships with a ton of people. So having people that you have very deep relationships with that know the good and the bad and the ugly, that you show up for, they show up for you, right? It's really, really challenging, but it does not just happen. It won't just happen to
Right.
You've got to intentionally create margin and space for your life. Otherwise, you will grab onto the newest tool. You can make a whole lot of money, but then, and then it's all great articles of the day. Someone that exited their company, they cleared hundreds of $1 million. Now they have all the time in the world and they're thoroughly depressed because they don't have purpose and meaning for the life anymore. Like, now I've got money, I can play games as much as I want, I can travel as much as I want. Like, my whole focus of my life is now just my own personal pleasure and thoroughly just not satisfied. Like, we were built to be involved in problems. We were built to be involved in community, and it is messy and it's not optimal, and it's uncomfortable. But that's definitely part of the metric success that we need to maintain is, am I involved? Is life still messy? Because if it's not, if everything's working great and you've got, all your needs at your every whim, and you're not uncomfortable, which is what learning requires you to be, then I think you've missed the true measure of what success should be.
Man, I love the way you kind of wrapped us up just with this entire like holistic view of what really success looks like. And, this idea of community, idea of, learning, idea of being designed to, to solve problems. And the fact that if there's so many entrepreneurs that exit, that have solved a problem. I mean, they don't stay uninvolved very long because they are dissatisfied, and they'll step back in and they'll find a new problem,
Yeah,
if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So
sure.
it is that they're designed, they're wired that way. And man, I really appreciate you just taking time today, and it's good to kind of step into the college space, every now and then, and just like, what is the next gen facing? What is the next gen? How are we preparing the next gen for, this new reality that is going to exist in their lifetime? And man, it's just great to hear, and great to see that, there are guys like you that are in this space that are taking this so seriously and so to heart to make sure that the next generation is prepared to walk in this new reality in a way that really is beneficial, not only to them, but to society as a whole. So thanks again for just taking time today, and always just playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Evan, it's great to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
We hope you heard some great takeaways and are now ready to take action yourself. As always, thank you for listening and helping all boats rise in a rising tide.